Mr. Keith Durbin is here, along with Ms. Margaret Keck, the Assistant Director, and Ms. Mary Newton, the Division Manager. Before you begin your presentation, Mr. Durbin, are you satisfied with the Mayor's proposal for your department?
While we could always use more money, yes, I would have to say I am satisfied with the Mayor's budget proposal this year.
All right, you can continue.
All right, I first want to thank you for the time you're spending with us this afternoon, and I'd like to make a couple additional introductions. In the audience with me, I've got other members of our leadership team, including Betty Shin, who is our Chief Information Security Officer, Lori Smiley, Dawn Clark, and then Michael Rear, who is working with David Harbsmeyer to televise this event for Metro 3. So I want to thank all of them. So Information Technology Services is a department that exists to support the information technology needs of other Metro departments and agencies. At some level, we provide support for all of the agencies of the general government and the judicial branch, and also other agencies of Metro, including the Hospital Authority, MNPS, MTA, and even NES. We strive to do so in a collaborative environment, working towards solutions that maximize the return on our IT investment for our taxpayers. Our basic business model is to provide the common commodity infrastructure and routine IT services so that our departments can focus on the activities that provide a direct impact for their business objectives. So things like managing Metro's wired and wireless data network, email, server management, telephones, and PC and desktop support are all things we do, along with systems that are essential to operations across multiple departments, such as Kiva, the land management and permitting system, our HR and financial system called EBS, and our Nashville.gov website, among other services. A few of our diverse set of accomplishments from the last year include, in conjunction with the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, we upgraded the existing downtown video surveillance camera system, which will allow the MNPD to expand their video services capabilities greatly. One of the things I'm very proud of, and I'm happy to report with Councilman Stein, is that with the CATV's Jackie Schrago and support from Metro Legal Saul Solomon and Terry Costonis, we completed, after a long 4 years, our franchise negotiation agreement with Comcast. And then the achievement that I think most fully illustrates the nature of ITS within Metro is our Nashville.gov upgrade that took place earlier this year. While Nashville.gov is run by ITS, our customer departments and agencies each own their own sites and can manage that content with the mayor's office owning the homepage. Because the technology does work well and we have a state-of-the-art system, Metro's departments and agencies who have previously run their own websites find that they can get a better product for much less cost to Metro than they were managing their own. The Arts Commission has already moved on to Nashville.gov. The Sheriff's Office is in the process of doing so, and we're talking with Fire and County Clerk as well about moving on to Nashville.gov. For the coming year, major projects that we currently have funded include continuing construction projects, including the Bellevue Library, Midtown Hills Police Precinct, the Crime Lab in Madison, the new Lentz Health Department, and several more fire hall renovations. Second, the wholesale replacement of Metro's network backbone to address its obsolescence and to enable us to manage the ever-growing flow of network data. Third, the implementation of a number of employee-focused projects, including a time and attendance system, timesheet system basically, benefits open enrollment system, and employee self-service for the HR department to benefit Metro employees, and which will reduce costs for paper processes. Third or fourth, we're actually working with Metro Codes to replace our very successful Kiva land management and permitting application. And then fifth, we are currently working, and I'm very happy to report once again, since this has been a question that I've received for the last 3 years, is that we are working with AT&T to put our PEG channels, including Metro 3, on AT&T's UVerse service. We expect to have that up in July or so. One project that I do need to mention that is not fully funded currently is the first phase of our Metro Public Wi-Fi Internet project. You probably know that currently we have Wi-Fi basically at this location only within Metro. With the full funding that we're asking for, we're going to look to expand the offering of public internet Wi-Fi to a number of buildings. We've started the project, and as of today, we have expanded that to include the Sunny West Conference Center, the Metro office building where the codes and planning departments are. It's basically a customer service environment. We've rolled it out to the Parks Coleman Community Center, and we've expanded Wi-Fi internet service in this building from just this chamber to the bottom floor and then the other side of this floor, so not just the council chamber anymore. The additional funding required to do that is actually listed on page D74 of your budget book. And with that, to wrap up, I'd just like to ask you, once again, we're happy with the mayor's proposal for ITS, as it will enable us to continue to support Metro's departments and agencies per our mission. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Durbin. Councilman Tiger.
Thank you, and welcome back to these chambers, Keith.
Yep.
We've had discussions with a number of Metro departments, trustee, water, about email for bills and collection and whatnot to eliminate postage. And I'm curious, you have a comment under your strategic issues, the lack of a comprehensive enterprise-wide collaborative approach to technology solutions and services, if unmet, will result in increased costs, inefficiencies, misallocated resources. Is this tied together, having a citywide database that if a home signs up for email access, then it could be shared by various departments that need to bill that customer or client or resident or communicate with that person? It just seems redundant to me for everybody to start collecting their own database.
So it's a really interesting question, and you're hitting upon an aspect of it, and that's one example of what happens when you don't have kind of a comprehensive overarching strategy. Right now, and I'll just use the trustee since you brought up that example. Right now, the trustee, if he is interested in he's got one or two IT staff, if they are interested, they can bypass us entirely and go out and find a system that could do that for them without checking with us, without knowing what else we have going on. And because he is a department head and he's an elected official, he's able to do that. However, in other cities, there are more comprehensive and overarching IT management protocols in place. Basically, other cities have built governance processes, which is bureaucracy, basically, that serve the purpose of when somebody is looking to meet a need, there are processes that are followed. That first you're checking internally to make sure that somebody else is not already doing that. Secondly, is what you're asking for actually something that's a highest and best use of IT funding? Because right now, if the trustee is interested in doing that and he's got some funding, he goes and does it. When other agencies may have very dramatic needs, but because they haven't been allocated those funding, since there's no one who's actually reviewing and managing that from a holistic level, some dramatic needs may be going unmet when trustee is providing email to people, email billings to people. So that's what's meant by that statement, and what you're looking at is one example of if there were more overarching governance, again, another layer of bureaucracy involved, to address those issues, we could see changes.
So at what level would a decision have to be made that we want this more comprehensive approach?
I think there's a leadership both from a mayoral perspective and from your perspective. Again, it's something that other cities do. The last administration had a version of such IT governance. As I speak to different people on my staff and others within Metro, other departments may cringe because I'm not sure it necessarily was implemented at kind of best practices mechanism. I wasn't here, I don't know. But we've tried it before and it went away.
So am I reading between the lines and based on your comment that this is something that should have some upfront costs, but perhaps huge economic savings down the road if implemented thoughtfully and in a way that it's across the board of these departments and is something worth pursuing?
In my mind, it is something worth pursuing. There are give and takes. And again, I mentioned there is another layer of bureaucracy. It's another layer of review that a department would undergo before they could take a technology. And so in this world where everybody expects things to happen yesterday when it comes to technology, it's again, laying another level of bureaucracy. There are other examples I could give you. I'm not going to name any names, but there is we've got a centralized GIS department, which is planning. They do mapping. So there is another agency that has put together a mapping service that is fantastic. That's really nice. However, they duplicated some efforts that we have in place already, and they did it because they saw a need. They went out and met it, and it really didn't go through any kind of centralized processes. I would have recommended against it, but it is what it is.
I'm going to be back after budget season and talking with you on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tiger. Councilman Lady Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Mr. Durbin.
Hello, belated happy birthday.
Well, thank you so much. You had said in your opening statement, and I was looking at how it coincides with what you have on the strategic issues. You said provide and support. You said provide support, collaborative environment, and then it has in some of your accomplishments. But then again, I look down here at your strategic issues, and I'm trying to make a point here. How often we have such a diverse amount of individuals that are so talented across the board in all these agencies that have, somebody in place for technology. How often do you all get together to discuss things like threats to security threats, threat of confidential information, loss of data? How often do you all meet? And then I think it was somebody here the other day from the departments talked about a consulting firm. That would be the Grace Consulting Firm if you all got together. So I'm just saying, with that kind of collaborative efforts, how often do you all get together to discuss these kind of things across the board? Because, would that save money? I'm just asking. Do you understand my question?
I do. We do a lot of various kinds of collaborative efforts. Actually, yesterday morning, we have every other month a meeting called the IT Community Meeting. Notice it didn't say ITS, where we invite the individual IT staff members from departments and agencies who have IT staff members to come together to meet for an hour and a half to talk about major issues that are going on, to show kind of projects. Security is always a part of that conversation. Our CISO, and sitting in the back, gives a presentation about what's going on, as well as updates on major projects that affects other people. So that's at one level. Other levels, from an information security perspective specifically, we have a couple of various meetings. One, the Information Security Advisory Board is a mayoral advisory board that's made up of 7 department heads and their delegates and 6 outside private sector chief information security office. They get together once a quarter and collaboratively talk about and bring in that input from the outside, again, using that free expertise, and they're happy to give us their free expertise to meet some of these things. Internally, once a month, an Information Security Steering Committee meets to actually talk about policies, practices, procedures, initiatives around information security, since that is something important as well. And then on a daily basis, across our department, we're working with various departments and agencies on projects and initiatives that they have going in order to make sure they meet various criteria and they meet the goals that that department and we actually are looking to meet for them. Perfect example, as I mentioned, the police video surveillance project, something that we've worked, and Margaret Keck has worked very closely with various people in the police department, led by Deputy Chief Huggins, to get them a product that meets their needs. And furthermore, we take an additional step and look to see how in those types of projects we can standardize things, and we have an offering that, so the next group, and there are lots of them that want video and video surveillance, next department and agency, we have a standardized application around managing video. We have standardized camera specifications, so that when the fire department wants to do that, so that when the health department out at Lentz is going to put video cameras, we can not only cut that work off and they don't have to go out and then reinvent the wheel. We've got something for them to use. And then also, in this case, the police department can tie into it as well. So those are just some of the examples that we can do. Now, does that mean we don't ever need to bring in outside expertise? Mm-hmm. No, there are always going to be needs to bring in outside expertise, but you're right, there is a lot of expertise within Metro, and we use it.
Okay. I'm coming from the budget book. I looked at page D73 and 74, and I was looking at, I just wanted to understand, because software, I know it's changing constantly, and how often do you all discuss about software purchases, and how does that impact the other departments as well that may need software changes? And then I looked at, on D74, hardware maintenance and support, software maintenance and support, and then I think you sort of addressed public wireless, which is crucial, but not as crucial. But anyway, you did address that some. But anyway, could you address that, please?
Sure. We ITS exists to support kind of the common software. So Microsoft Office products, Windows, your email system, the software that runs your servers, and those things. So we handle those purchases. We let people know what we're doing, and we work with them to make sure that we're meeting needs when we're buying those kind of commodity packages. So we're talking about those things on a regular basis. What you're seeing in relationship to those things here are situations where we have licensing agreements, we have maintenance support agreements for hardware and software that we've signed contracts, and Metro contracts are 5 years maximum, but typically they have step increases that go into effect year to year. And typically when you sign a contract that you're going to pay them more money year after year, they don't like it if you don't get funded for those things, and if you don't pay them, they cut off your use of those things. So what you're seeing from the licensing and hardware and software maintenance and support are representative of those step increases that are written into contracts. Okay. And so every year we ask for those on an annual basis, because it doesn't make sense for us to say, all right, we're going to need this 5 years from now, just give it to us now. I don't think Mr. Riebling would care for that approach. Okay.
Last question. I looked at, on page D73, information security vulnerability. Could you explain that to the viewing audience as to how critical that is?
So, Metro's network, just like everybody's network, is under constant, persistent attacks. That we have firewalls in place, but we have a team of people whose job all day, every day is to help maintain the security. They need tools in order to look at our network, to look at individual applications, software applications, and analyze them for vulnerabilities that the bad guys might be able to take advantage of. What you're seeing there is one of those tools by which we do that. Mm-hmm. You don't have something like this, you do your best, you put up a defense, but you can't proactively probe and analyze the way the bad guys are going to do. This is one of those tools.
And that's all metro agencies that are, that have this tool in place?
We support.
You support? Okay.
We support all the metro agencies since we run the data and voice network. Okay. We probe that as well as we do application support for other departments as well. So we're checking those applications for vulnerabilities as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor A. Moore. Councilman Stein.
Thank you for being here. I assume now that Comcast is over with, that we get some cost savings because we get more work from you in other areas now that that's gone.
Absolutely.
When you all gather, and I'm the most technologically impaired person in the room, but when you gather with all your folks and everybody's talking about all these issues, is JIS and MNPS at the table?
JIS is always at the table. We've got a great relationship with Natalie Steers and her team. She had 2 people from her staff. She wasn't able to make it yesterday to that meeting, but she's certainly there. She personally sits on the Information Security Steering Committee. She personally attends the Information Security Advisory Board meetings, and she is an active participant in those conversations.
Okay. So JIS is there. And is MNPS there?
MNPS is invited.
Well, you can take the councilman out of the chamber, but you can't take the politic out of the councilman. All right, let's go back to JIS a minute. We always go through this machinations, and this is directly related to savings. They make all these claims that there's certain things that they do that have to be secure, and they're afraid of anybody that's not judicial from looking at something or another. But are there potentially areas of greater collaboration that could save us money and technology if the relationship between JIS and ITS was closer?
So I actually had a meeting with Judge Mondelli and Natalie not terribly long ago, and we discussed that very issue. There are a lot of things that Natalie's team do that she should exist as a department to do. They maintain and do additional development for a system, their CGIS system. We don't have the expertise. We really don't want to get the expertise. It doesn't make sense for us to do that. There are things, though, that they manage that there are opportunities for collaboration. A couple of those might be, we have this Nashville.gov technology now that is staggeringly cool, and it works, and it allows departments and agencies to manage the sites themselves. JIS's sites are beginning to age, and so I let them know that I thought it made sense for them to come on to Nashville.gov rather than asking all of you for more money to fund renovation of all those sites. The other one, there are some other functions that, by virtue of the fact that we're part of the executive branch and they're part of the judicial branch, from a political perspective, they see there needs to be a sharp dividing line there. Noting, however, there is not that sharp dividing line between the legislative and executive branch.
Well, and they're gone, but I think that we should, as a committee, figure out some ways to encourage that, because I think that's it. Well, let's turn to the second part of my question. With your silence, my implication is that the degree of cooperation between ITS and NMPS systems is not particularly collaborative.
It's not where I'd like it to be. They feel like they have a different direction and are moving that direction. There are a number of things we do collaborate on.
Is that like because you're opposed to education? What's the directions? Seriously,
you'd have to ask them
and
those things. So there are a number of things we are collaborating on. The time and attendance system we're collaborating on. They are part of the enterprise, the EBS system, our financial system. And those are two.
Well, and I might add, I do know part of that answer, because the work you're doing with Laura Hansen around data and the after-school initiative and all of that work is terrific work, and is being nationally recognized, both Laura and you all, and to be commended for all that. But clearly, that's an area that many of us hope there might be savings for everyone. And then as a final matter, I want to personally ask that you support ours, since you said that departments have control over their Nashville.gov part. Clearly, it is not as easy to find out information about what we're doing. I mean, it's not as easy to look at our agendas anymore and see what the analysis says and all those kinds of things. And if this is better, there's got to be a way to make that more friendly to the public. And so to the extent that within your budget, you can support that effort, I think that's pretty important information for the world to have. And it's just not, that's just one part of this, small part of this, that's really not as good as it was before. And I don't understand why it can't be. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Councilman Stein. Councilman Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Durbin, for being here. Always appreciate your comments and the rest of your department as well. Budget looks great again this year. I'll just run through kind of a few things. I think Councilman Tigard and Council Lady Moore, I think everyone's kind of hitting on something. I don't want to belabor that point about the multi-collaboration. I agree with kind of what you were saying with like pulling all the other websites in. I think as much as we can to Nashville.gov, just want to say that kind of publicly. We need to kind of keep working on that. I was thinking about the same thing on like a smaller level. I was just kind of thinking like the assessor's site, for example, with PAD CTN and sort of the searching mechanism. You mentioned that planning has the big software application. I was like, well, I was going to ask you about improving the UI of that, but it sounds like that's just all happening on their own, correct? It's not
in some cases. And different departments are more willing to collaborate. Planning is one that we work really closely with, and we'll continue to work really closely to pull their maps into Nashville.gov. Just doesn't happen necessarily as fast as we'd like it to, but.
Sure. Well, yeah, I like their, from what I've seen of their system, it's working great when, they have to pull stuff up for me and plats and all that stuff we look at as district council members. Works well. The assessor, the data is great, like it pulls up really fast, but it's just the UI is so terrible. I'm sure it doesn't even hardly work at all on a tablet or something. So, I didn't get to be at his presentation, but I don't know if you guys are working together, but just any improvements we can make on those kind of sites. And I think we just need to continue to have that discussion about getting you guys a little more, even as advisors. I know sometimes you need to go out for special software, and I understand that. But however you guys can be more involved as advisors, let's figure out how to make that happen, I guess, in the future. Your thoughts on the new Nashville.gov? I've been liking it. I think the look is great. Love the responsiveness. Heard a few complaints here and there. I think that just happens with change. It's like when the new Facebook rolls out and everyone kind of freaks out for a little bit. But overall, I've been enjoying it. I didn't realize that maybe with our data there were some problems. Are you guys kind of making lists for UI UX changes on that, or?
We keep lists of those things, and we have there's a direct email link at the bottom of every page to send corrections in or changes, suggested changes. We work through those very quickly. So I really am looking for specific examples. We actually had an email to the mayor's office by Mrs. Lampley from East Nashville last week who was having trouble. We researched it, found exactly what the problem is, had it fixed, actually had a fix in the queue waiting to be pushed. So, I'd very much encourage anybody who has any specific or general issues that they'd like to see addressed, we're going to address them. The old Nashville.gov had been in that form for pushing 10 years. So over 10 years, you smooth all those kind of rough corners off, and we'll get there with this one, I firmly believe, and I agree. I think the technology is right. I think it's where we need to be, but I am all about people giving us specific suggestions, and we will act on them.
Great. Well, if I hear anything from my constituents, I'll send it to you.
Please.
I'll work with some of our members maybe and just kind of, because we worked together when it was going live and would like to help in that regard. MMPS, Councilman Stein asked some good questions about that. We've been talking together on the maintenance side, the IT side. I think, between the general government and those guys, we're getting some good conversations going. Some of the things when I talk to them, just talking about the different directions you guys have been pulling in a little bit that he alluded to. Are we, I know there's a thing with children's information on servers. Is that something, did that cause a little bit of a rift, like specifically, would you guys not house children? Because I was told that you guys wouldn't house the children's data on the servers, that was kind of a concern of security for you. Is there anything with that? Does the general government have a problem with housing that kind of specific data?
There is absolutely no issue with us housing data for children, and I think FERPA is the name of the kind of legislation that mandates that. We deal in criminal justice information system, which is life and death in some cases. We deal with HIPAA data, which we could be bankrupted as a city if we didn't manage that correctly. So I had no issue. I think the specific issue you're talking about is there were some miscommunications and misinterpretations on some things around the way that email systems. We really don't want students accessing directly the same email system that Metro employees access.
Sure.
We don't think that's a good idea. And therefore, we have made some statements around students' emails being intertwined with Metro employees' emails. And that's probably the root of that suggestion.
But you could house the emails somewhere else, maybe its own server.
Oh, there are solutions.
Put it at Rackspace or something.
Absolutely.
Or,
there are
randomly.
solutions that we had in place previously to actually do that. I don't think MNPS liked that solution, and so they went a different direction.
Okay. Another point that was brought to my attention was they get software really cheap through Microsoft. If they go direct, is that where they would it be better for them to be direct on software type solutions? Is that right?
Well, the libraries get E-rate funding as well, and we work with the library all day, every day. So I don't understand how that's an issue.
Okay, so great. You had mentioned like software Office products. One thing I was thinking was, Office is doing that 365 with the more they're going more licensing where you can get the quick updates of you can get the newest, the 2013 Office products right away. Are we on like a larger scale license system with that where we can always get the latest and greatest?
We are. We have an enterprise agreement that the administration very kindly allowed us to join 3 years ago. I think we're going into our 4th year, so absolutely. We have access to the latest and the greatest, whether all of our employees are ready to move to that instantly, and whether we have the staffing to push that out, the answer is probably no. But we are right now moving everybody to Windows 7 and Office 2013. At some point, not anytime in the near future, we'll be moving to Windows 8. Not anytime in the near future until they clean up some stuff. But we have the capability to be that if we had the desire and the staffing to do so.
Are you letting people get good browsers like Chrome and Firefox, or are you making everyone use IE?
There are exception processes. Yes, we are letting people use Chrome and others as well.
Okay. Excellent. Just be great to have the employees using the best browsers.
Yep.
Final question. Excited about the Metro buildings Wi-Fi thing you were talking about. You had mentioned like rolling out to parks, and I know you said one community center was getting it. We've been in Centennial Park for like years, but so having the access in the park, you're now more focusing on the buildings and doing it like floor by floor, or?
So we really don't have it in the park. There was a system in place. It was not robust. You could never tell if it was up or not, and it's gone. It's been gone for a while now. And so what we're actually doing is reintroducing that. Our plan is 51 locations, all the community centers, all the parks historic sites, all the regional community centers, also customer service sites, including like the Parthenon, the customer service sites like the county clerk's remote location, Metro office building, HOB, and this site. So we're going to be back in those places like Centennial Park where we were before.
So I'd be able to go to Howard and just be sitting out on a picnic table out there, probably, if it was close enough, and get on the Wi-Fi and that sort of thing.
You can do that today.
Oh, okay. Great.
The public Wi-Fi.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate everything. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Claiborne.
Before I ask my question, I'll give you one of those specific incidences. I still can't, since the Metro.gov went up, I still can't get the GIS maps on my Windows XP. I have to go to Firefox to get those maps. And from what I understand, that may be a problem with the server at planning. I'm not sure, but
we will get back with their GIS manager, and we will bring that back up. I was assuming that it had been fixed a long time ago for you.
no, it's
Okay.
still not fixed. I have to,
We'll hit
if I want to look at a GIS map from planning, I have to go to Firefox to be able to pull it up and do what I need to do.
All right.
I wanted to tag on Councilman Stein's question about JIS, but go a little bit deeper here. Yesterday in their presentation, one of the proposed impacts on their budget is stated this way, and I'll just read this. It says, although JIS does all its own development in-house and performs all mitigations and upgrades, it sometimes becomes necessary to engage the assistance of contractors during emergencies or to fulfill a temporary need that is beyond the skill set of GIS resources. Now, I understand that there are license-specific requirements or circumstances that come up that have to go back to the licensee to deal with that. But do your folks have the expertise, the ability to provide some of this assistance that she talks about during emergencies or fulfilling temporary needs that might not be license-specific problems?
Well, we are doing some of that stuff for them. For example, they run their own email systems, and when they're having issues with their email systems, we have a support staff that they do use us. And that's just one example. I think there are other issues around some of their server maintenance where we assist them with those things. We know that stuff. We're happy to help with that. When it comes to their direct, the application they've developed through Oracle and all that, we may or may not. We've never really had that discussion with them. So I can't give you a straight answer to that. We certainly have Oracle DBAs, and we're using some of those tools, but it's not been looked at closely.
Right. Well, that's in her response. She mentioned specifically Oracle as an example. So if you have the expertise in that area and there's not some requirement and that expertise is there, perhaps that's since she is cooperative with you and meets with your group, maybe that's a discussion that could be had.
So I'd be happy to have that discussion. Note that we don't have staff sitting around with no projects on their lap. So it becomes one of those things. We're not staffed today to be that second tier support today. However, that's always something that could be in the support, and I'm happy to reach out to her and start investigating that possibility. But they're also, this comes back to that governance issue we're talking about previously. Who has priority in a situation like that? Does Terry Cobb's Kiva running on Oracle, when they're working on something for him and JIS has an issue and you've got this one set of Oracle resources, who's going to make that, where does that determination come to peel off Kiva and go deal with this? That's why having those outside resources, which we use ourselves, quite frankly, we've got great relationships with a lot of Oracle vendors. So it's a complicated question. It's not very, very straightforward.
Okay.
But we're happy to reach out to her and talk to her about that.
And I had the question about the school system, but I think we've pretty well been down that track. I'm just disappointed to hear that there's no significant conversations that have taken place since we were here this time last year. And I'll make that known to the school system when they come.
Well, we have identified some low-hanging fruit that's available at this point. One of those things is data centers. We've got a world-class data center that basically is available for their use should they choose to use it either a primary backup center or a primary data center or a backup data center. So that is actually one thing we have talked with them about that far outstrips what they've got in place today and could be a good avenue for additional collaboration.
Thank you, Councilman Claiborne. Councilor Dow, you had your light on, but it's not on anymore. Did you go out of queue? Go ahead.
I realized yesterday that when you're not on the Budget and Finance Committee, you get put on the second group of people to ask questions, so it takes so long to get to you with the other people on Budget and Finance that sometimes I'll just wait. But I was going to ask about the applications that the different department uses. Do they go through you to get any type of for you to assess the software before they purchase it? I've had a lot of people contact me about purchasing the software they use, and I'm just wondering, do you know if we're upgrading that or making any modifications to it? And also, I had opportunity to talk with the trustee about the changes that we're making to that ITS program that they're using at the tax assessor's office, the trustee's office. But do you know about the procurement software, and do you review that? I know we've had a lot of issues with it, and I'm just wondering.
So I think if your question is about the procurement software, the new iProcurement system
Yes.
that we have, that is my department implemented that with a vendor and in conjunction with the finance department. So yeah, we're intimately involved in the procurement system. We run it for finance and for the procurement division. So we worked very hard over the past 2 years to bring it to where it is now. Like any new, different system, it's different. The rollout hasn't been perfect, and we certainly acknowledge that, but we've come a long way from where we were when we initially rolled it out. It's certainly stable. It just is a different process than we've had in the past, both for some of our internal departments as well as some of our suppliers externally to Metro.
Right, because I've had a lot of people outside to contact me about that software system, about delays, challenges and issues with it and so forth. So now that I know it's an in-house program that helps out a lot, I'll send those to you.
You can send those directly to me at any time, and we are happy. We field questions from the public like that. Actually, Finance Department fields a lot of those questions since it's their system, but we're happy to pass that on and make sure that those problems are resolved.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Dow. Councilor Moore.
This question was brought about when I heard Councilman Davis, and wanted to just ask you, you had used the words again, the relationships you have with the departments, and you also said intimately. How intimately is the training for these softwares that, okay, once you get these updates, how is the training progression goes with it? Because when I was on the website, before I came here, they transferred me twice, and I don't know whether someone from ITS told me how to navigate the system. So I was just wondering, because I was like, okay, I'm trying to find the link, but I go back to the same page. I won't say who it was, but I'm just saying, is there training involved in this? Once a department changes their website, is there training involved?
So the website is available to the whole world.
I understand.
So, we don't do training. One of the
goals
goals
for the staff who, like I called, I said, I'm on your website and I cannot understand how to navigate this system. I was transferred twice.
Okay.
So do you all provide training to the staff once website is changed? Who provides that training?
What we provide training for is around 4 departments on how to construct a website to make it easy to understand. Maybe we need to go back to the drawing board on that one, as well as to how to actually do that. And so again, it's one of those things, if the public or you or anybody is finding a specific site difficult, let us know, and we can go in and work with them to help that. That's what it takes. It takes someone letting people know, hey, your site's not straightforward. and then we can address it.
Okay, and I'll let you know who it was. Streaming videos, I was trying to, like, live video of, is it afterwards, when your ITS people film the videos, you have to access it then, or can you access it before? Like, this is live right now, so can I go to my computer now and access it? Well, I can't, but
ma'am.
I'm just asking. You sure? Because I
100%
tried.
sure. So if you go to metro3.nashville.gov,
Okay.
there is a link that says live streaming Metro 3, and it shows you the same thing that's showing on Comcast, like live. And that's up 24 hours a day. And then after meetings happen, we post those meetings onto our YouTube channel. There's a Metro Nashville YouTube channel, so you can see it, watch them either as they happen or go to that YouTube channel.
Okay, I'll try it again.
I can help you out with that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor A. Moore. Seeing no other council members in the queue, thank you, Mr. Durbin and guests, for your service to our city, and this concludes your department budget hearing.